The House Oversight Committee hearing room hummed with tension as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett prepared to question former Trump administration official Kash Patel. Camera lights reflected off her gold-framed glasses as she organized her documents, the dark blue suit conveying both authority and composure. Patel sat across from her, his expression confident as he adjusted his microphone. "Congressman Crockett, you have 5 minutes for questioning," announced Chairman James Comer. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," Crockett began. "Mr. Patel, I'd like to discuss your role in the—" "Before you start," Patel interrupted sharply. "I need to address the completely false characterizations made by the previous questioner about my service to this country." The committee room fell silent. Representatives glanced at each other nervously, while staffers behind them froze. Interrupting a member of Congress during their questioning time was considered a serious breach of protocol. Crockett paused, her expression unchanged. She slowly removed her glasses, placed them on the table, and leaned toward the microphone. "Mr. Patel," she said, her voice measured but penetrating, "I'm a former defense attorney. I've questioned hostile witnesses who were facing life sentences. Your interruption doesn't concern me, but your disrespect for this committee's procedures does. My time is limited, and I'll be using it to ask my questions, not to accommodate your commentary. Now, shall we proceed properly, or do you require a reminder about how congressional hearings function?" The room went completely still. This confrontation was about to demonstrate the difference between volume and authority, between interruption and true command. Before diving into this extraordinary exchange, please like and subscribe to stay informed on the latest political developments. Jasmine Crockett's journey to Congress reflected a lifetime of preparation for moments precisely like this one. Born to a military family in Missouri, she had worked her way through law school, eventually establishing herself as one of Texas's most respected civil rights attorneys. Before entering politics, she had built a reputation for meticulous preparation and unflappable courtroom presence, often representing clients against powerful institutions. At 42, Representative Crockett had quickly distinguished herself since her 2022 election to Congress. Her legal background was evident in her precise questioning during hearings, where she typically eschewed grandstanding in favor of methodically establishing facts. Fellow committee members had learned that beneath her composed exterior lay a strategic mind that rarely asked a question without knowing exactly where it would lead. "In a courtroom, you never ask a question you don't already have the answer to," she once explained to her staff. The same principle applies in congressional hearings. Preparation isn't just about knowing what to ask, it's about anticipating how the witness will respond. Kash Patel, 44, represented a different trajectory in public service. A former national security official in the Trump administration, he had served in various roles, including the Department of Defense and the National Security Council. Following the 2020 election, he had become known for his steadfast loyalty to former President Trump, defending administration policies across conservative media outlets and eventually authoring a controversial book about his government service. Prior to his political appointments, Patel had worked as a public defender and later as a national security prosecutor at the Department of Justice. This legal background had given him confidence in congressional hearings, where he had developed a reputation for aggressive responses and challenging the premises of questions from Democratic representatives. The House Oversight Committee hearing had been convened to examine national security protocols during the presidential transition period. Given his role during the final months of the Trump administration, Patel had been called to testify about document handling procedures and security clearance processes, topics that had become increasingly contentious in Washington. Behind the scenes, Congresswoman Crockett had prepared extensively for this questioning opportunity. Her staff had compiled a comprehensive briefing book covering Patel's previous testimonies, public statements, and media appearances. They had identified several instances where his public claims appeared to contradict documented evidence or statements from other officials. Most importantly, they had carefully crafted questions designed to clarify these discrepancies without allowing tangential explanations to consume her limited time. Patel had arrived at the hearing with his own strategy. Veterans of congressional testimony often attempt to run out the clock on their questioners, particularly when facing 5-minute time limits. His previous appearances had featured lengthy preambles to straightforward questions and challenges to the factual basis of inquiries he preferred not to answer directly. What he hadn't anticipated was facing a former trial attorney who had spent years dealing with reluctant witnesses and evasive testimony. The stage was set for a collision between two people accustomed to controlling the narrative, one through interruption and redirection, the other through precision and persistence. After Crockett's initial response to Patel's interruption, the hearing room remained tensely silent. Committee Chairman James Comer cleared his throat uncomfortably. "The gentlewoman from Texas controls her time," he affirmed. "Mr. Patel, please allow her to ask her questions." Patel sat back, a tight smile on his face. "Of course, Mr. Chairman." Crockett reclaimed her questioning with the same measured tone. "Mr. Patel, in your book, you stated that you were tasked with overseeing the transition of classified materials during the final months of the administration. Is that correct?" "Yes. Among many other critical national security responsibilities," Patel began, "I was part of a team that—" "Thank you," Crockett interjected politely but firmly. "A simple confirmation is sufficient. Were you aware of the Presidential Records Act requirements regarding the handling of classified documents?" Patel shifted in his seat. "Congresswoman, document classification is a complex process that involves multiple agencies and protocols. During my time serving this nation, I've always adhered to all relevant security." "Mr. Patel," Crockett interrupted, her voice remaining calm, "I'm asking a straightforward question that requires a yes or no answer. Were you aware of the Presidential Records Act requirements regarding the handling of classified documents?" "Yes, I was aware of the general requirements," Patel responded, his tone sharpening. "Thank you," Crockett continued. "On January 16th of last year, you stated on the Barrett News program that you had personally ensured all classified materials were properly transferred according to protocol. Do you stand by that statement?" Patel leaned forward suddenly. "Congresswoman, you're taking my words out of context to create a false narrative. What I explained in that interview was the standard process for—" "I'm not creating any narrative, Mr. Patel," Crockett replied evenly. "I'm simply asking if you stand by your own statement, which I quoted verbatim." "You're not providing the full context," Patel insisted, his voice rising. "This committee continues to pursue politically motivated investigations instead of addressing the real threats to our national security. I've served this country loyally for years, including as a terrorism prosecutor, and I won't sit here and allow—" "Point of order, Mr. Chairman," Crockett stated calmly. "The witness is not answering the question and is instead delivering commentary outside the scope of my inquiry." Chairman Comer nodded reluctantly. "The witness will confine his answers to the questions asked." Patel's expression hardened. "I stand by my statement with the proper context, which you're deliberately omitting," Crockett nodded, unmoved by his evident frustration. "For the record, I have the full transcript of your interview here, which I'm happy to submit to the committee. Now, were you present at Mar-a-Lago on December 15th when archives officials conducted their initial review?" "This is exactly what I'm talking about," Patel interrupted again, his voice louder. "Democrats continue to focus on manufactured controversies while ignoring the serious national security failures of the current administration." Crockett didn't react to his outburst. She simply looked at her watch, then at Chairman Comer. "Mr. Chairman, I'd like the record to reflect that Mr. Patel has again refused to answer a direct question, and I'd like my time restored, as the witness is using deliberate non-responsiveness to consume my questioning period." Before Comer could respond, Patel interjected, "I'm answering your questions, Congresswoman. I'm just not giving you the political soundbites you're fishing for." Crockett turned her gaze directly to Patel, her expression unchanged, but her voice taking on a new clarity and precision. "Mr. Patel, allow me to be transparent about what's happening here. You're employing a common tactic I've seen countless times in courtrooms, using interruptions and manufactured indignation to avoid answering simple questions. As someone who claims to respect our national security institutions, I would expect you to respect this congressional oversight process as well," she continued without raising her voice. "I'm not asking for sound bites, I'm asking for straightforward answers to factual questions. The American people deserve to know whether officials charged with handling our nation's secrets did so properly. These aren't partisan questions, they're fundamental to our national security." The hearing room had grown completely silent. Even representatives who had been checking their phones were now watching the exchange intently. Patel's face flushed slightly. "I've answered your questions, Congresswoman. You just don't like my answers." "Actually, Mr. Patel," Crockett replied, consulting her notes, "you've interrupted me 4 times and have yet to provide a direct answer to whether you were present at Mar-a-Lago on December 15th. It's a simple yes or no question." "These gotcha questions," Patel began. "Asking whether you were physically present at a location is hardly a gotcha question," Crockett observed, her tone remaining professional. "But your reluctance to answer is telling." She turned a page in her binder. "Let's try a different approach. I have here an email dated December 16th, in which you wrote to a colleague, and I quote, "Yesterday's meeting with the archives people went exactly as we planned. This would suggest you were indeed present on December 15th. Is that accurate?" Patel stared at her for a moment, clearly caught off guard by the document she had referenced. The camera caught his momentary hesitation before he recovered. "I don't recall that specific email without seeing it," he said finally. Crockett nodded. "I'm happy to refresh your recollection." She held up a document. "This email was provided to the committee by the National Archives. Would you like to amend your previous non-response?" The tension in the room was palpable as committee members recognized the methodical trap Crockett had set, allowing Patel's evasions to create a contradiction she could then expose with documentation. "Yes, I was present for part of that meeting," Patel conceded, his tone noticeably less combative. "Thank you for that clarification," Crockett said. "Now, during that meeting, did you inform the archives officials about the additional boxes of materials in the storage room?" "Congresswoman," the characterization of Patel began, his voice rising again. "Mr. Patel," Crockett interrupted firmly, "I understand this may be difficult, but I'm asking specific factual questions that call for specific factual answers. Did you inform the archives officials about the additional materials, yes or no?" The exchange continued in this pattern, with Crockett maintaining her composed, methodical questioning, while Patel alternated between interruptions, attempts to reframe the issues, and reluctant direct answers when cornered with documentation. Unlike many congressional questioners who might have responded with equal emotion or been thrown off course by interruptions, Crockett remained unflappable, treating each evasion as confirmation of her approach rather than a provocation. As her questioning time neared its end, she addressed a final topic that would prove decisive. With just over a minute remaining in her allotted time, Congresswoman Crockett turned to what would become the defining exchange of the hearing. "Mr. Patel, in your Fox News interview last month, you stated, and I quote directly, 'I never personally handled any classified documents during the transition. Yet I have before me a signed receipt with your signature, dated January 18th, acknowledging your personal receipt of what's described as classified materials requiring secure transfer. Can you explain this discrepancy?" Patel's expression changed immediately. He glanced toward his attorney seated behind him, then back at Crockett. "I don't believe that document exists," he said, his voice carrying less conviction than before. Without breaking eye contact, Crockett lifted a document from her binder and passed copies to the committee clerk for distribution. "Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter this into the record. As you can see, it's a standard classified materials transfer form with Mr. Patel's signature, provided to this committee by the National Archives last week. As copies reached other committee members, murmurs spread across the dais. Patel leaned over to whisper urgently with his attorney while cameras captured his evident discomfort. When he turned back to the microphone, his entire demeanor had changed. The confident, combative witness had been replaced by someone visibly calculating his options. "Without seeing the original document, I can't verify the authenticity of that signature," he said finally. Crockett nodded as if she had anticipated this exact response. "Fortunately, the National Archives maintains the original, and their forensic document experts have already authenticated your signature. But more importantly, Mr. Patel, the transfer was also witnessed by two officials who have provided sworn statements to this committee." She closed her binder deliberately. "So my question remains, how do you reconcile your public statement that you never personally handled any classified documents with this signed receipt proving that you did?" Patel attempted one final deflection. "Congresswoman, these proceedings are clearly designed to distract from the current administration's failures and to continue persecuting former President Trump and those loyal to Mr. Patel," Crockett interjected, her voice carrying new authority that silenced him mid-sentence. "I'm not asking about the former president. I'm not asking about the current administration. I'm asking why you made a statement on national television that documents now prove was false." She continued with devastating precision. "As a former federal prosecutor yourself, you understand the seriousness of providing false information during an investigation. My question is simple. Were you lying in your Fox News interview, or are you lying to this committee today?" The hearing room fell completely silent. Representatives on both sides of the aisle leaned forward, recognizing they were witnessing a pivotal moment. Chairman Comer looked uncomfortable but said nothing as the confrontation reached its climax. Patel sat perfectly still, the confidence that had characterized his earlier interruptions completely evaporated. After several seconds that felt much longer, he responded in a significantly altered tone. "I may have misspoken during that interview regarding the specific handling procedures," he said carefully. "My intention was to explain that I wasn't responsible for the overall document retention process." "So you acknowledge that your statement on Fox News was false?" Crockett pressed, not allowing the qualified admission to stand unchallenged. "I acknowledge that it was imprecise," Patel conceded reluctantly. "Imprecise," Crockett repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Mr. Chairman, I see my time has expired, but I believe the committee now has a clearer understanding of Mr. Patel's relationship with precision, particularly when speaking under oath versus speaking on television. As she gathered her documents, the contrast couldn't have been clearer. Patel, who had begun the exchange attempting to dominate through interruption and indignation, now sat subdued, his credibility visibly damaged. Crockett, who had maintained the same composed demeanor throughout, had methodically dismantled his defenses not by matching his confrontational tone, but by deploying something more powerful: meticulous preparation and unshakable focus. Committee members from both parties recognized what they had witnessed, a masterclass in effective questioning that had revealed more in 5 minutes than previous hours of testimony had uncovered. Even representatives who might have been politically aligned with Patel couldn't help but acknowledge Crockett's skill in exposing the contradiction between his public statements and documented actions. As the chairman called on the next representative for questioning, the damage had been done. No matter what followed, the exchange between Crockett and Patel would dominate news coverage of the hearing and reshape public understanding of the testimony. The impact of the 5-minute exchange between Congresswoman Crockett and Kash Patel reverberated far beyond the hearing room. Within hours, clips of the confrontation spread across social media and news platforms, garnering millions of views and generating extensive analysis from political commentators. The moment when Crockett produced the signed receipt that contradicted Patel's public statements became instantly iconic. Major networks ran the clip in heavy rotation, with headlines emphasizing how the freshman congresswoman had methodically cornered the experienced former national security official. "Receipts don't lie. Crockett exposes Patel contradiction," read one banner across cable news. Legal analysts particularly praised Crockett's prosecutorial approach. "What we witnessed was the difference between political questioning and professional cross-examination," explained a former federal prosecutor on CNN. Representative Crockett didn't get distracted by Patel's interruptions or attempts to reframe the narrative. She had a specific factual contradiction to establish, and she methodically led him to a point where he had to acknowledge his previous statement was false. Conservative media initially attempted to defend Patel, characterizing Crockett's questioning as aggressive and politically motivated. However, these defenses weakened considerably when confronted with the straightforward nature of the contradiction she had exposed. Even on Fox News, commentators acknowledged that the signed receipt presented a problematic discrepancy that Patel had failed to adequately address. Within the political ecosystem, reactions divided along predictable lines, but with notable exceptions. Democratic leadership quickly recognized Crockett's effectiveness, with the House Minority Leader praising her preparation and professionalism during a press conference the following day. Several Republican committee members privately expressed respect for her methodical approach, with one anonymously telling a Capitol Hill reporter she didn't play politics, she just laid out the facts. Hard to argue with that. For Patel, the consequences were significant. Scheduled appearances on several conservative media outlets were quietly postponed in the following days. His publisher issued a carefully worded statement announcing a routine review of certain assertions in his book before its next printing. Most tellingly, former colleagues who had previously defended his actions began distancing themselves, with several declining to comment when asked about the hearing by journalists. The professional contrast between Crockett and Patel became a case study in effective congressional oversight. Political science professors incorporated footage from the exchange into their curricula, highlighting how preparation and precision could overcome attempts to obfuscate through interruption and emotional appeals. Law schools similarly utilized the clip to demonstrate effective questioning techniques when faced with resistant witnesses. What made Crockett's approach so effective wasn't just her preparation, though that was exemplary, noted a Georgetown law professor in an analysis for the Washington Post. It was her refusal to be provoked into an emotional exchange. By maintaining her composure and methodically laying groundwork for each question, she created a situation where Patel's interruptions only undermined his own credibility. Social media analysis revealed interesting patterns in how different demographic groups responded to the confrontation. While political affiliation predicted the overall reception, education level and professional background influenced viewer assessment of the exchange regardless of party. Lawyers, educators, and business professionals from both parties rated Crockett's performance more favorably, recognizing the skill involved in her approach. The phrase, "I'm a former defense attorney," began appearing on merchandise within days, becoming shorthand for maintaining composure under pressure. Memes contrasting Crockett's calm demeanor with Patel's increasingly frustrated expressions spread widely across platforms, often accompanied by variations of her statement about questioning hostile witnesses facing life sentences. For Crockett herself, the hearing marked a significant elevation in her national profile. Interview requests poured in from major networks and publications. Democratic leadership assigned her to additional high-profile committees where her questioning skills could be leveraged effectively. Fundraising for her re-election campaign surged, with small-dollar donations flowing in from supporters impressed by her performance. Perhaps most significantly, the confrontation established a new standard for congressional questioning that influenced how other representatives approached similar situations. Committee staff reported a noticeable increase in preparation time before major hearings, with members requesting more comprehensive document reviews and detailed witness backgrounds. The era of performative questioning designed primarily for social media clips rather than fact-finding began facing new scrutiny. 6 months later, when another controversial former official appeared before the same committee, observers noted a distinct shift in approach from members of both parties. Questions became more specific and document-based, with less time devoted to general political statements. Several representatives explicitly cited Crockett's techniques, with one noting, "I'm following the Crockett method today, specific questions with specific documentation." The confrontation between Jasmine Crockett and Kash Patel ultimately represented something larger than a single congressional exchange or political moment. It demonstrated that in an era often defined by the loudest voice or most inflammatory statement, methodical preparation and professional composure could still prove devastatingly effective. As one political analyst observed, what Crockett showed us isn't just a strategy for congressional hearings, it's a template for addressing misinformation in the public sphere. Don't match volume with volume, counter inaccuracy with evidence. Don't respond to interruption with indignation, respond with focused persistence. It's a lesson that extends far beyond politics. For viewers across America, regardless of political affiliation, the exchange offered a rare and valuable reminder. In the contest between interruption and preparation, between bluster and precision, facts presented with confidence and clarity will ultimately prevail. Thank you for watching our analysis of this remarkable political confrontation. If you found this breakdown valuable, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth political analysis. Leave a comment telling us which political showdown you'd like us to examine next.